Well,
Yes,
pass my
we had to
greetings,
double
please.
bypass and valve replacement. And because of the old valve, the piece came loose, she ended up having a stroke. But when they did an MRI, it was gone, so she's doing okay.
Okay, that's
She's
good.
just in recovery mode right now, so,
Okay.
which I'll probably be January, February. And then I'm going to do all the tests.
Well, let me know when to be praying for your surgery, and
Hey, I lost 15 pounds just in water weight. That water was straight.
there you go.
Death.
Yeah,
But I'm doing okay now.
that's the just part, though. I'm glad you knew that.
Stubborn German, you know.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Let me know. So, yes, we may do.
Have you met Kristen yet? Yeah, I was gonna say I thought so. Amy. Exactly. Dead to us. No. Never. You did? Just like today? Keeping you reminded. I'd say you're doing a great job. I think so. We need you here. Got something to do. I think you're looking great. It's good to see you. Let's see. See if I have a picture of the needs. Really? So Memphis lost a couple of teams. Yeah. My 5-year-old. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting to visit for the Toothberry. He got two.
Status for as much of next week as he's here, because he's going back to New Orleans, I think. My thought being that maybe we'll
Thank you. Take care of yourself.
I'm just looking to see who all of you are. Okay.
Were you looking for something?
No, I was just looking. We just moved into the district, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm just,
Seeing who's who?
yeah, I'm a political.
Ladies and
coordinator.
gentlemen, welcome to the September 12th, 2024 Board of Education regular meeting. The time is, let me take a look, 6:33 p.m. and I am calling this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Davala. Here. Heil.
Here.
Schmidt. Here. Olivia Wright.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I get a vote?
Davala. Aye. Heil.
Aye.
Olivia Wright.
Aye.
Schmidt. Aye. Thompson.
Aye. Okay, we are on to public comment. We appreciate and welcome comments from our stakeholders as part of District 49's open forum. Please remain in your seats until called to the podium by the Board of Education Chair. Once called upon, please approach the podium, state your name and relationship to the district before beginning. Please speak into the microphone. Written statements may be left in the basket. Yeah, it is there, okay. May be left in the basket. We ask that you not address anyone in the audience and that your comments be made in a respectful and orderly manner. To fulfill our values of trust and respect, we decline to create a forum for attacks or criticism against specific staff members, students, or other stakeholders. Therefore, with the exception of members of the Board of Education or the superintendent, personal complaints against individuals connected with the school system are prohibited in this forum. Follow-up action items may be assigned to the superintendent. In accordance with Board Policy BEDH, open forum participation is limited to 2 minutes per person. It is the practice of the Board of Education to withhold any comment or direction to the superintendent until after all who have signed up for open forum have had a chance to speak. I would also like to make you aware of our stakeholder grievance process. This process can be initiated by anyone in our D49 community and guides the stakeholder through the correct people and process to help resolve their concern, including, as a final step, the opportunity to formally appeal to the Board of Education. We encourage you to utilize this process if warranted, as many have successfully resolved their concerns this way. Thank you for participating in our open forum. The views and opinions expressed in public forum are those of the commentators and do not necessarily represent official policy or positions of District 49 or the Board of Education. And since we have 4 people signed up, you can go ahead and sit in these seats and then come up in this order. Destiny Tochi, Ann Easton, Larry Langston, and Timothy, what's the last name there? Weber. And so if Destiny Tochi could come to the podium.
Good evening. Thank you for a brief moment to speak here this evening. As a resident of District 20 and a homeschool family that is also able to use programs offered in D49, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you as a board. I understand that you are welcoming of charter schools as well as those families like mine who choose to homeschool their children and participate in enrichment curriculum that is offered by D49. Programs like Falcon Aerolab and Patriot High School's Culinary Arts have benefited our 2 children, 2 of our 4. These are opportunities they would not have had otherwise. Our daughter graduated this spring and spent all 4 years learning to fly. She flew before she could drive and has found what she loves and a solid career path. And at 18 years old, she will have her private pilot's license before the end of this year, 2024. Our son is a sophomore and has started training in education under Chef Lustig at Patriot High School and is loving every minute of it and has his sights set on running his own business one day. D49 and this board have shown themselves to be supportive of families in our community through avenues like these. I appreciate that you have worked to maintain local control of charter schools and enrichment programs, recognizing what is best in our own backyard. Raising children is harder than ever. Every family and every child is different, so I just want to thank you for encouraging and supporting a variety of avenues for parents to provide the education that works best for their family and child, being less agenda-driven than many school districts across Colorado, and instead operating in support of parents and families. Thank you.
Anna Easton.
Hi, my name is Ann Easton, and I'm a former special education teacher in D49. You know, this is an amazing world we live in with many unexpected twists and turns. On Tuesday, I attended a funeral. One of my dear friend's husband died on September 3rd. He just died, and it was shocking. And now she's fighting to rebuild her life. I brought this up because when these things happen, you take stock of the things in your world, and you want to take care of as many as you can. Earlier this month, I learned that D49 school board members, 2 school board members, sent a letter to the city council about a position that was open and a person known to them had applied. That person was not selected. As leaders in our community, they spoke up about the situation that concerned them, and they took the time to share their concerns with the appropriate people. I'm here to thank you for stepping up to support our community at large. I personally believe we all have to get involved in all aspects of our community to get through these crazy times. As you probably know, diversity, equity, and inclusion and social emotional learning are being greatly reduced and disbanding in many large corporations. Generally, this is because the public is rejecting the products and services wrapped around DEI. DEI is dying. It will take time to get through the damage that's been done, but with strong leadership like you, who can stand up for the community, we will get there and remove DEI. Thank you again for allowing me to address the board, and thank you for acting in such a manner. Thanks.
Thank you. Larry Langston.
My name is Larry Langston, and I had 2 former students at D49, and I want to thank you guys, board, for serving. I really appreciate what you're doing because I could never do this. Anyway, the reason I'm here, I'm talking about the 15th annual Falcon Craft Fair, which is happening out at Falcon High School on the 5th and 6th of October. 9 to 3 on the 5th and the 11th to 3 on the 6th. And I'd appreciate if you tell your friends, let them know about it. It's going to really be a good fair. My friend's one of the ones setting it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Timothy Weber.
Hello, I'm Timothy Weber. I just moved into the district 2 weeks ago, and I was hit with a curveball as far as no bus transportation for my kid to get to school. Me and my wife had to change our work schedules. They said there was 18 people on the waiting list to catch a bus to school, and I was wondering what the district was doing about that as far as transportation for our kids in the district. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now we're on to the consent agenda. And by the way, we will be following up with you, just so you know, that it's not that no one is responding directly. We will get back with you with information on that. Does anyone have an item? Does anyone have an item to be pulled from the consent agenda? Can I get a motion to approve all consent agenda items as presented?
I move to approve all consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we get a vote?
Davala.
Aye.
Heil.
Aye.
Livia Wright.
Aye.
Schmidt. Aye. Thompson.
Aye, and that passes. And we are on to the superintendent update.
So good evening, Peter Hill, Superintendent, and tonight, just because of the meeting this is and where this falls in the annual calendar, what I want to share with the board and the community is performance by the numbers. As you know, because I sent you a preview email a little over a week ago, we got our district and school performance reports from the state. Initially, we did not have the reports for Patriot High School and Goal High School, which are alternative education campuses, but we have since gotten those as well. And so these are the numbers that reflect performance in District 49. 97, 7, 9, 6, 3, 2, 0, 100, and 2 million. And I don't know that you can guess what those mean, so I'll walk down. 97 is the percentage of schools that maintained or improved their level of performance on the CDE School Performance Framework. 29 out of 30 of our schools did really well. So congratulations to our teachers, our para-educators, principals, students. That's fantastic. Now, you're going to want to keep those hands warmed up, because every one of these numbers is a win. You're going to be tired of winning before I'm done. Last year, 2 of our schools earned 74 or more points. 74 is the threshold for distinction, and as you know, being a district of distinction is one of our big, hairy, audacious goals. Well, there is no way a district gets there unless its schools get there. So last year we had 2 schools hit the mark of distinction. This year we had 7. And so that's a remarkable achievement. One of those was Patriot High School on the AAC framework that scored 75 points. The next number is 9. We had 9 of our schools make double-digit year-over-year improvement on their SPF score. So that's a big deal. In our elementary schools, the number was 6, because we test science, math, and English language arts, and we test for achievement and growth. And so our elementary schools had 6 opportunities to score, and they improved their performance in all 6. So they went 6-0, fantastic growth and improvement in achievement as well. And so 6 subjects. 3 is a key number because all 3 of our levels, elementary, middle, and high school, all improved. The average improvement in the state of Colorado, kind of bouncing back from COVID, was right under 2%. Our schools improved on an average 6%. So we tripled the improvement percentages across the state of Colorado, which is a fantastic accomplishment. Both of our 2 is a number. 2 out of 2 alternative education campuses improved their performance and earned that performance rating that we're looking for. And 0 is the number of schools in District 49 on the accountability clock. We have 0 schools in turnaround status and 0 schools in priority improvement. And I am confident that next year I'm going to tell you we don't even have a school in improvement status, because the ones we have are so close to tipping up and over. And you'll see those scores as we get into a little bit more of the detail later on in the year. 100. This might be my favorite number on this list. 100 is the percentage of Title I schools in District 49 that earned a performance rating, the highest rating on CDE's standard. And so, because there are times when the word is a little bit controversial, I want to point something out. There are places where the word equity would be applied to Title I schools because there is some attempt to change the outcome, to manipulate the outcome. Our Title I schools, students, teachers, principals, paraeducators are held to exactly the same standard as every other school in the state of Colorado. They take the same test at the same time with the same conditions. Nobody is doing a thing to the outcome. But what we are doing is using the federal dollars that are targeted for schools that have a higher percentage of students living in poverty. We are providing extra resources. We are providing extra support. So we're providing access and opportunity on the front end, and the outcome took care of itself. You're going to have to look long and far to find a district where all of their Title I schools are performing, and you won't find them in this region. This is a remarkable achievement. And the final number is 2 million. I'm technically constrained from telling you what the 2 million are, but I can tell you that soon you will have 2 million reasons to celebrate and forecast future math improvements in District 49. So once I can go fully public with that, I will. But 977-963-20-100 and 2 million tells you that D49 is doing a lot of things right. Thank you.
It is going to be pretty hard to top that this evening, but if we could go on to the Student Board of Representatives, you can give us updates on what's happening in your schools. Should we start off then with Catherine and go left to right here?
Well, lots going on. A lot of great things. For one, I'd like to just congratulate our football team. They beat Air Academy by a great deal. And this is Sand Creek High School, by the way. There is one thing that I would like to point out, is we have a lot of students. And it's great. I'm happy we have a lot of students. And there's also the point of there's also not a lot of room in our school. So if there is a way, and I know that's going to be hard in some cases, but if there is a way to increase the space inside our school just because of how big students are, just for other schools too, because I'm sure there's a lot more students building up at other schools too, if that's a possibility. But I'm loving everything that's going on at my school so far.
Catherine, would you mind sharing with the audience just a few of the activities you're involved with at Sand Creek High School? And Juliet, if you could do the same when it's your turn. I think that the audience should hear what we were hearing in the back room.
Sure. So I am a high school senior, and for the past 4 years, I've been in NHS. I have been doing ROTC, and I'm currently the Chief Master Sergeant. And I am in marching band, and I'm the horn sergeant for our marching band. And this year, I'm hoping that we can make state, because I'm seeing a lot of great promises with our marching band. I used to be in student council, but I dropped that because I do a lot. But I really enjoy what I do, and I think that's important.
Okay, Juliet, you can choose your order if you want to do your report first and then tell us what you're involved with, or vice versa. We can do it either way.
Okay. My name is Juliet Olson. I'm a senior at Vista Ridge High School. I am student body president of student council, which has been such an amazing experience so far. I also run cross country. I would say Vista Ridge is having a very good start to its year. This year we've definitely seen a lot of effort to improve our school culture with more school spirit. A lot of that is thanks to newer administration, such as our principal, and just the work of the students and trying to get the students more involved. It is homecoming week this week, and we've had a ton of student participation in a lot of our events, which is amazing. and a lot of improvement from past years. And then for the student board as a whole, we are just getting into working on continuing our resolutions this year that we had last year. So we will have 2 students presenting to principals about going to our middle and elementary schools and really hearing what those students have to say about what's going on in the district. So I think overall, the student board is also doing very well.
Thank you. Director Schmidt?
So this month I've only had a couple events and both of them were really fun and not really business, sorry. The first one was the field day at Bennett Ranch Elementary School. Field day's always been my favorite when I was a kid, a long time ago. And I always helped with my kids' field days too. It was nice to see another generation of field days, so I really appreciate that. They had a really good variety of outdoor activities, and they had music and art stations for the kids who are more interested in those activities. Middle school students came down from the middle school and helped run each station, so I really like to see them coming back and giving back. I think that's really, really a positive. The festivities ended with the legendary truck pull, and if you guys don't know what that is, they set up 2 trucks with ropes, and each of the students compete against their parents to see who can get their truck to the end of the parking lot first. It was really amazing to see all the kids, but I gotta say, the pride in the faces of the kindergarten students, for the first time, they were pretty proud of themselves. It was really organized, it was safe, it was fun, and Mr. Ben Wells, who is the PE teacher over there, did a great job, did a really good job. My second event this month was the all-staff event at Sand Creek High School. The staff event is high energy and could never in any way be considered boring or quiet. This event allows to celebrate a pep rally atmosphere, some of the good things about D49. The Spirit Award winner this year was Remington Elementary School. They came dressed as horses with cowbells, and they even choreographed a line dance in the parking lot. Mr. Hiltz shared the good news that he shared with us tonight. And we had sponsors donate to put together gift backpacks for those that were winning some of the games and the fun drawings. I was very impressed that we had cheerleaders from all 3 high schools, and I was very impressed with Christian Berthoff. His speech was very heartfelt and I think very inspiring for both the teachers and the staff. So both of them were a nice celebration of our district, and it was a great break from business as usual.
Thank you. Director Heil?
So as we heard at the last regular meeting, Coach Izzy over at Spring Studio, he was in Paris to coach gold medal winning wrestler Sarah Hildebrand. And when he came back from Paris, the school held a surprise honoring of him, and I was there to watch it. And you know, the whole tribute, they put together a video, they really went all out for him, and he was standing right next to me as he was watching the video, and you could tell that he was really feeling honored and moved. So I just want to congratulate everybody who was involved in planning that. It was a beautiful event. I've been really, really busy now as the school year is getting going, so I attended a CASB seminar on Title IX changes and how they affect us in Colorado, the different statuses of the legal challenges, just so that we have some awareness. I attended the first SCELAC meeting of the year. I attended the first Long Range Facilities Planning Committee of the year, so that is where we are taking on that challenge of finding you some more space. And then upcoming events, by special invitation of the president of the PTA, I will be at Evans Elementary tomorrow night for the multicultural event. So that'll be 5 to 7 p.m. So come on down if you want to be a part of that. Then on Tuesday, we've got district-wide, we're going to have Constitution Day activities. You're going to hear more about that tonight. And then another event that I'm really excited to attend, Sarah Hildebrand, the gold medalist, she's been invited to speak to our middle schoolers at Spring Studio. And so I'm going to do my best to attend that, skip out on a little bit of work. One thing I really want everybody to know about that I'm doing, the state is organizing panels to try to define what adequate funding of schools are. And so I have volunteered to serve on one of those panels, and so I will be representing the D49 voice there. I don't know what adequate funding looks like, but I do know that it doesn't look like $150 million worth of deferred maintenance and a $5 million budget to handle it. And it doesn't look like professional staff who are being paid significantly less than they can earn out in the free market. So I'll be putting my energy into that. Thank you.
Director Olivia Wright.
So a few things. One, the shout out for Coach Izzy is also a reminder of, yet again, the innovation in District 49. And Mr. Franco, I would believe, was responsible for bringing the high performance athlete program and connection into Spring Studio and the campus school as making that community aware of the opportunities that we had available to support their students. And so again, that idea of looking at recognizing that different families and different kids need different things and making sure that we're expanding those offerings, just as we heard also from a D20 parent or D20 resident who is using many of the services we offer, because that is our purpose here, is to focus on our kids and focus on providing the opportunities the kids who exist today need, which are different than what maybe I needed 30 years ago when I was in high school. And so that's another example of a program that took time and effort from multiple boards to invest in, that now we have people on the international stage connected to D49 in multiple ways, and that's pretty awesome. Another piece, we had a speaker mention the craft fair that they're going to be hosting over at Falcon High. I believe that is on the same day as the Falcon High School Homecoming Parade, and also a harvest festival at Falcon High School that will be held in the parking lot. So there has been a great effort to combine different things from our community, some that are directly connected to the school and the homecoming game, which is, I believe, the following weekend, and celebrating our zone and our schools, and some that are for our wider community to access as well. So I encourage everybody to come and participate and support our community and help build and continue to build the community that is Falcon. There are a lot of great things out there, and the more opportunity we have for people who aren't necessarily directly connected to our schools to see how great our kids are, and for our kids and families to see how great some of those other community resources are, the stronger we become as a community. So please support both. I am also the liaison to the Falcon Education Foundation. We just had our meeting. I don't have a date to give you yet, but I can tell you the theme will be tentatively 80s. So as you're looking through your closet, save 80s. The other comment was I wanted to remind our Student Board of Representatives members that when you brought resolutions forward last year, some of them would have required funding to try and implement. And one suggestion is to consider partnering with a teacher who would be willing to sponsor that piece to write a mini grant. And Falcon Edge Foundation gives quite a bit of money out every year to projects. My personal recommendation would be, no matter who agrees to partner to sponsor whichever piece you would like to bring forward, also have a teacher connected that will help write it, that has been successful in grants in the past. There are people who are known for getting them multiple years in a row at every high school and at every school in our district. They're really great go-to people to help you know how to make sure you're answering the questions correctly.
Thank you. Jamie Lynn, Director Davola.
That's fine. So I'll start off with talking about the fun experience I got to have at the Power Zone Back to School Family Fun Night. That was hosted by Skyview Middle School. And my daughter and I both got to attend there. And she really enjoyed the Hungry Hippos Bouncy House, the Fishing for Prizes station, which I'm sure she fished about 4 times before they told her she couldn't do it anymore, eating cotton candy, and then blowing lots and lots of bubbles. Power Zone did a great job of putting this fun family event together, and I'm hoping that we can attend it again next year. Very great idea that you guys had. I also was able to attend the first DAC meeting of the year, which is actually called the District Accountability Advisory Committee. And this committee is made up of representatives from the school accountability committees of all of our schools, including our charters. And this is a very important committee, and I would love to invite all parents, if you are listening to this board meeting, to really see if you are able to attend your school's school accountability committee and then become a representative on that committee, and then you could also be on the DAC. We need a lot more parent voices. These are important voices that help us to make decisions for D49 and how we are run and what we do, and those parent voices are very much needed. Currently, most of our DAC members are teachers and administrators, and we love having them there. However, the DAC is supposed to be more of a parent advisory committee, and we are lacking representation of just parents. Now, we do have parents who are also teachers. We value their voices as well. So please contact your child's school principal if you are interested in being on your school's school accountability committee or the DAC. We really appreciate your involvement. It is very, very necessary and important.
Thank you. And I will have to see how well I can translate some of my notes. I actually have recently been diagnosed with carpal tunnel, and I'm dropping things a lot. And so the other day I dropped half a quart of Cerevicci in the kitchen, and I coated 50% of the kitchen. And my husband made a comment that when I make a mess, I make an extraordinary mess. And I informed him that I did not wake up that morning to be ordinary. So hopefully I can get through some of these notes over here. Along with Jamie Lynn, I attended the Power Zone Fun Day, and it really was a great day. Just so you know, it was hosted at Skyview Middle School, but it was all ages. And so we had current student board of representatives there, we had former members, we had high school, we had elementary, and it was so much fun. I danced a little too much in the heat and kind of ended up a little red-faced because I still think I can do a little bit more than I can actually do, but it was a blast. Jamie Lynn and I were invited to an education summit with board members from around the state. We couldn't stay for the entire day, but it was just a wonderful event. We received updates on the READ Act, legislative updates. There was a legal panel. There was a lot of collaboration among different board members, and it was a really, really great event. I attended Peak View 2024 along with Deb and a host of caffeinated teachers and staff. And let me tell you, they were loud. And of course, the Spirit Award, I think, was won by those shiny shorts that one gentleman was wearing from Remington, definitely. Those were eye-catching. I'm surprised he could breathe. I did receive, actually, some contacts from people around the neighborhood because we took over the neighborhood with parking. So we might want to work on some more busing opportunities. I had to park up above the football field, and then I had to walk down Carefree to get into the building. But it was an incredible event, and it was really fun to watch the different schools. Everyone was very well represented. There wasn't enough seats. We're growing as a district. I think we're going to have to take over a movie theater or something to host this event so we can provide seats for everyone. So it was a wonderful day. I attended the SEAC committee, and just so you're aware, that's Special Education Advisory Council. And this one I might run over, I might run a little bit into administrative updates, but we still need another parent co-chair volunteer. We, for the last few years, have partnered with District 11 and District 20 to do a special education resource fair. This fair was not just for families with kids in school, it also serviced adults throughout the community who might have special needs. We will not be having the resource fair this fall. And the reason why is the two people who were coordinating with District 11 and District 20, their kids have graduated. And what we need is we need volunteers. We need parents who will volunteer. We had a discussion, could we possibly host the resource fair in the springtime? Now, I know that this resource fair, and Marie can vouch for it, it's an incredible event where we get providers from around El Paso County that offer different services, everything from applying for Social Security disability benefits, for caregivers, for respite care, for all kinds of resources, both for kids and for adults. So we did have a grandparent during the meeting who volunteered to help out a little bit more. Samantha Hollister has done an amazing job. She's trying to transition out, but there's no one to kind of pick up the reins to help out. So if you have a heart for special education, we could really use volunteers to help pull this together. We will not be having monthly meetings. We are moving to quarterly meetings, and we're going to try to get speakers on different aspects of special education needs, and we're going to try to make them kind of kid-friendly events. And then I'm going to roll over to administrative updates. I have a report from our representative for ER BOCES that John sent over to me. And if I can't pull this up rather quickly, I think I'll just find a way to upload it.
I can pull it for you if you'd like me to.
Yeah, if you don't mind pulling it up, and if you could read that board update for me.
So our representative, our good friend John Graham, wrote a slightly longer report, but this is the essential gist of it. The BOCES, which is the Education Re-envisioned BOCES, of which we are a founding member, along with Pikes Peak, then Community College and the Yuma School District, has now 54 schools and programs. Their budgeted enrollment, so just as we have a budgeted target, they do as well, is 9,961 students, and they are at 9,750 with more students joining their programs, and we will expect they'll get more through the rest of the month up to the October count. And their FTE, out of those 9,750 students, their FTE is 7,354 because many of their student count are half-time or part-time students, so they count as 1/2 FTE. But that is still a very significant operation that is affiliated with District 49, and so those funds flow through. Former iConnect Zone Superintendent Andy Franco was at the ER BOCES in a leadership role. He has now left the ER BOCES and is supporting many of our charter schools. And in his stead, Trevor Miller, son of our own Brad Miller, has been selected to fill the position and work with the ER BOCES. And so that organization is very mature, very stable, and doing very good things for students all over the state of Colorado. I added that editorial part, John. You're welcome.
The other administrative update, we have launched our new website. And I don't know if you know how hard the comms team works, but if you get a chance, go ahead, visit the new website and look at all of the incredible updates that they post about on our district webpage, our Facebook page, just to see everything that's going on in the district. We received a great email from a grandparent with Evans Elementary that talked about their project growing microgreens. And I know for a fact right now we have 3 grandparents from Evans in this room right now. So they are growing microgreens, and I was thinking, this is wonderful. They'll not only learn science of growth, now if they're like me, we could also do an economic lesson. And the board president can say how that she planted late and will get a very measly yield this year for the amount of time and money invested in fertilizer, et cetera. But the fact that if we can get our kids eating more salads, and I think it ties in with the wonderful resolution we had on composting from our student board of representatives. Also, our student board, they're going to be going into our middle schools and our elementary schools to get information from kids on what they would like carried forth by the older students. Commissioner Geithner was speaking at, I think it was Bennett Ranch Elementary, and she comes every year to talk about governance. And she gets a list. Every student has to write out something they want her to consider for legislative needs. One of the most important ones that were coming out of Bennett Ranch was they need more ice cream trucks in the neighborhood. So it's really important to have kids involved, to hear what they have to say, to make them part of the process. And so I'm just really grateful when these things are brought to my attention. And I really love what the comms team does with the magazine and with the Facebook page. So if you visit our Facebook page, you get to see exciting events throughout the district. And I'm really proud of what everyone has been doing. Thank you. Can I get a motion for action item 7.1?
I move to approve the official survey date for impact aid.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Can I get a vote?
Davala?
Aye.
Heil?
Aye.
Livia Wright?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye. Can I get a motion for action item 7.2?
I move to approve and execute the supplemental appropriation documents for Fund 19.
Second.
Any discussion? And by the way, I should bring in the student board just so you can, we're discussing first off is the impact aid. Because we have a lot of military connected students, by having these forms returned on impact aid, we can actually draw more resources and funds into the district. And so, I don't know, have you guys received those? I think we just approved those forms, but you've probably seen them in the past when they go home. Everyone gets one to see if you are military connected. The other thing we're discussing right now is a supplemental appropriation because we needed a little bit more money for preschool. So that would be a supplement to the budget. And I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything so far that you'd like to.
I do not, thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay.
We're not actually, so on the supplemental appropriation, we're approving both. We also received extra resource specifically for preschool. So just as kind of a clarity piece, we have to technically approve that they spend the money that we collected for preschool on preschool. We collected more money than we had originally budgeted because we had a more successful preschool program than we predicted. So, but we have to approve the expense of that resource in the supplement. Just so we didn't take money from some other part of the budget to cover a shortfall in preschool. There was revenue that came in that was also spent on preschool that we have to technically approve.
What she said. All right, can I get a vote, please?
Davala?
Aye.
Heil?
Aye.
Livia Wright?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye, and that motion passes. Can I get a motion on action item 7.5?
I move to approve the 2025 graduation dates and times.
Second.
And that was 7.3, I apologize. Is there any further discussion on graduation dates? By the way, did you guys attend any of the graduations last year that were held at the World Arena? What did you think of the venue? Did you like that?
I thought it was great. I thought it definitely made the students feel very recognized and a very good graduation. So yeah.
If I may, I really liked the venue. It was huge and it made me feel like I was because I presented the colors for our high school's graduation, so it made me feel like I was important even though I wasn't graduating, and it was just awesome venue.
And so what we've done is we did it last year, we're going to do it again this year. We moved our graduations to the World Arena, and there were some on the student board who mentioned that it was further to drive. The difference is that we had more easy access for otherly abled students. In the past, when we were graduating at, is it called Vibes Field now? There was a little bit of an issue with if you had wheelchair, if you had other mobility issues, and also, this may surprise you, but the weather in Colorado can change. And when you're indoors at the World Arena, it's a little bit of a safer venue for that. So, is there any other discussion on the graduation dates? Hey, can I get a vote?
Davala?
Aye.
Heil?
Aye.
Livia Wright?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye. Can I get a motion for action item 7.4?
I move to approve the resolution for Constitution Day.
Second.
And could we go ahead and, would one of you like to read that resolution for Constitution Day?
If someone other than me can do it, because I have a broken tooth and my jaw is killing me, that would be awesome.
Director DeVola, you want to read it?
I will gladly take that. Resolution National Constitution Day, September 17th, 2024. Whereas District 49 recognizes the importance of the U.S. Constitution in the development of our country, and whereas District 49 is dedicated to providing a quality education for all students, and whereas District 49 exemplifies the best traditions of our constitutional republic, including a robust system of public education, and whereas the choices available to students and parents through D49's portfolio of schools embody the democratic ideal of self-determination applied to public education, and whereas the students, staff, and stakeholders in District 49 express pride and appreciation for the traditions of democracy enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, and whereas studying the history and tradition of the United States promotes the value of greater civic participation and active citizenship, and whereas it is appropriate for District 49 to endorse the observance of National Constitution Day as an opportunity to support better understanding of our nation's history and culture. Now, therefore, we, the District 49 Board of Education, proclaim September 17th, 2024, National Constitution Day, adopted and approved this 12th day of September 2024.
And for our student board, I wanted to know, have you participated, because we do this every year, have you participated in some of these activities?
Yes, I have. I think they're very helpful for a lot of the students, just learning about the Constitution in general, especially at the high school level, when you get students that are going to be of voting age soon. Having days like this is very important to kind of refresh their memories and get them ready to prepare to vote. So.
I think I attended one. It was pretty cool.
Do we have any other discussion?
I just think it's really important for our students to learn as much as they can about the Constitution because they need to run this country one day. So it's good to learn the history and how it works.
Director Heil?
And just as I alluded to earlier tonight, there are going to be a slew of events happening throughout the district on this. I wish I could tell you more about them, but I just got the email on it today, and I really haven't had an opportunity to get my head around it and digest it. But yeah, every single school is doing something important and special to help our students understand the Constitution.
Director DeVola?
I would like to say a few things about our Constitution, because this is very important. So we're celebrating 237 years of this document. Our Constitution is the longest lasting constitution in the history of the world. The average length of a constitution is 17 years. So for it to last that long attests to the timeless principles that are in our document. Are leading up to the Constitution, the signers of the Declaration of Independence came together at Independence Hall in order to discuss and talk about these issues. Our founding fathers were actually made up of 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Only half had a college degree, 25% of them were homeschooled, 25% were orphaned or from single-parent homes. We had farmers, merchants, businessmen, doctors, a land surveyor, and a scientist. I bet you could guess the last two. Sam Adams was actually the poorest of our founding fathers. He was so poor he had to borrow a horse in order to get there. Some interesting facts about that. The Declaration of Independence is the foundation of our Constitution, and our founding fathers relied on these timeless principles as the essential basis of our founding documents. These include, we get our rights and freedoms from the Creator, not from government or our neighbors. There is a moral right and wrong, the founders called self-evident truths, and good morality and knowledge are necessary for good government and happiness of mankind.
And along those lines, and we've gotten a lot of different, like I said, we got the email today on the different events. There is also something available to teachers in our districts, subject, of course, to principal approval. So far, this program has been in several of our charter schools, and it also is at Skyview Middle School. Constituting America, they offer free classes. They come in and teach the classes. I think they are, let me take a look here. This is grades 4 through 12, and they are 45 to 90-minute presentations. They include engaging videos created by students for students, as well as prizes for participating students, and each student will receive a personal copy of the U.S. Constitution. They also have the We the Future contest, which includes monetary prizes for all grade levels and DC trips offered to middle schools and high school winners. Teachers also have an opportunity to win $2,000 when they enter their lesson plan on the Constitution. And I have an attachment for the flyer and for their events. So this is a free presentation that any teacher can take advantage of, to have them come into your classroom and teach this class. And I will forward more of this information on to Superintendent Hiltz to share with whoever would like more information on it. And I have talked to one of the teachers who took advantage of this at Skyview, and he was blown away by the content of this program. So it's a free program that I hope we can utilize. And that's what I have on the Constitution. So let's take a vote on this resolution. And by the way, I hope you noticed this particular resolution, every director gets to sign. I don't know if you saw that on your board docs. So can I get a vote?
Tavala?
Aye.
Heil?
Aye.
Livia Wright?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye, and that passes with pride. Can I get a motion for action item 7.5?
I move to approve the recommended policy updates listed under policy, procedure, and review.
Second.
Discussion? Director Schmidt?
I'm going to be the rebel on this one, obviously. I am a lot of times. There were 28 policies with edits. That's a lot.
And I want you to know I really appreciate it. And actually, what we're doing on this is we're just doing edits, just the red line versions, or in some cases green. So it's not like we're redoing 28 policies. Some of the changes are statutory. Some of the changes are because of law changes. Other ones are changing, like superintendent, or from chief officer to superintendent. And I understand and I appreciate your diligence on really looking into each of the policies. Board members do have the opportunity to request policy reviews for different agenda items. And so like there's one policy that we're going to be discussing soon. We just got some more updates on that, the one that you wanted discussed. So what we're doing is we're doing edits, and that's what we're voting on tonight. We're not voting on the policies themselves, we're voting on the edits to the policy. Any other discussion?
3 policies actually were reviewed with no changes as well on the 28th. I don't remember the exact number of policies we have, but as a board, we're required to review all in a 3-year cycle. So when you take a look at that ginormous policy book and divide it by the number of meetings we have in 3 years, it also is quite a few policies. And some of these come up multiple times. We have a little cheat sheet here that Lynette does an amazing job of putting together with us. It is an amazing process improvement that has occurred since that was not available on my prior board service, but it lets us know why there's what's there that we need to kind of log into. So if there's something, for example, every time we end a legal session, so when they end in June in Denver, there are always things that we have to edit in our policies right away. And so some of these policies, it'll say legal edit. That lets us know that what we see in the red line was required by law. So there are ways for us to be able to make clear judgment on what we're reading as well, because we are looking just for the portion that changed. Anything in black is staying the same whether we approve it or not. The black doesn't change either way, only the edit does. And then anything that's a really big change, they'll bring to us separately, unless it's one of these legal changes that we have no choice about. Often HR and some student-based ones, depending on what the law is, but there's lots of HR stuff that comes based on state and federal every year.
And I think if I went on the new website, and someone can double check me, if you ever want to see the documents we're referring to at the board meetings, I think you go under transparency still, and then you drop down to the Board of Education. You can pull up the meeting, and you can pull up the meeting agenda. And so if you ever want to look, and Lynette did prepare a wonderful cover sheet just showing, okay, no changes, this is name changes. And so all of that information is online, and it will remain online, just like our meetings are on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. And I did think of one quick thing. I hate to backtrack to the Constitution resolution. We also have a woman who has been attending board meetings here for 30 years, who became a United States citizen by choice. Am I correct about that, Ellen? Yeah, and so when you were taking your citizenship exam, you had the opportunity, I assume, to also learn about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and I'm just proud of your involvement and that you became a U.S. citizen. So thank you for that. Oh, can we get, is there any other discussion on those edits? Do you guys have any questions about the edits?
No, thank you.
I'm all good. Okay.
So, Ms. Thompson, I did want to reinforce something that Director Olivia Wright said, which is our policy manual is over 400 individual policies. The vast majority of those are required by statute or required by just good governance. We don't have very many frivolous or optional policies. And so if you think about a 3-year cycle where you will typically have 10 business meetings where you can take action, that means you've got to deal with over 400 policies in 30 meetings, and some of those meetings get canceled like we did in July. So it really ends up being in the 20s. And so that's why you see mini meetings where you've got more than 20. But just as her administrative partner, I want to also kudo Lynette, because the level of technical oversight that this project takes is very significant, and it's why she is one of the only senior executive assistants, because it takes a great skill set to manage a policy manual, and so I'm grateful that we have your leadership.
And to have the strength and courage to remind many other senior people in the district when it's their job to make sure the policy edits come forward. Keeping track of when they're due is very daunting. And communicating to the people who are responsible for them when they have 8 million things on their plate as well, and making sure everybody does their part is a huge part and a huge thank you. I
have
remember
to
those days and say thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have to add additional kudos on top of what Superintendent Hilt said. What Lynette does for this district is nothing short of amazing. She is calm, she is hardworking, she is diligent, she checks things over, and she just does an amazing job preparing for meetings and everything she does. I mean, she is just absolutely amazing.
We only hire the best, so you're one of the two, so you're the better half.
Can I get a vote, please?
Davala.
Aye.
Heil.
Aye.
Livia Wright.
Aye.
Schmidt.
No.
Thompson.
Aye. Now, we were talking about resolutions with the student board, and can I get a motion for action item 7.6?
I move to approve the resolution for Goal Academy.
Second.
And we can have more discussion, but I would like Director Davola to read this. Just so you're aware, we have a lot of different charter schools that we charter under District 49, and we also charter a statewide program for an alternative high school called Goal Academy. So we prepared a resolution that we would like CASB to consider, and we would also like some of our administrative staff, which will be covered in this, to kind of direct lobbying efforts towards getting this done, and I'll have Director Davola both read the resolution and kind of give some of the thought process behind it. And Catherine and Juliet, I think you'll find this one interesting.
All right. Whereas Goal Academy is a statewide alternative high school that offers hybrid education, drop-in centers, and flexibility that benefits students in a variety of situations. Whereas Goal Academy is also an attractive option for students who are behind on their credits, possibly due to life challenges, and are at higher risk for dropping out. Whereas because of the unique population of Goal Academy, their graduation data and academic performance is significantly lower than conventional schools. Whereas the number of statewide students of Goal Academy exceeds all of D49's local high schools combined. Whereas less than 5% of Goal Academy students reside in El Paso County. Whereas Goal Academy's graduation data and academic performance significantly and disproportionately impacts D49's district performance framework. Whereas Goal Academy's data provides an artificial picture of graduation rates and workforce readiness. Whereas District 49 is committed to maintaining our charter in support of Goal Academy throughout the state of Colorado and is proud of opportunities offered by Goal. Whereas Goal Academy serves an important role in increasing the number of high school graduates throughout the state, whereas students who earn a high school diploma have higher earning potential throughout their lifetime and benefit the state of Colorado. Therefore, be it resolved that the board requests the state legislature to develop legislation to report district performance framework data in a way that separates alternative education campus data from all other performance data. Be it further resolved that the board will work with the district lobbyist and local legislatures to support such legislation. Be it further resolved that the board encourages Goal principals and staff to reach out to their local legislatures to support such legislation. Approved and adopted this 12th day of September, 2024.
I was honored to be invited to a teacher gathering that was hosted by the Freedom Foundation, and while I was there, I met a Goal Academy teacher that came from, I think it was outside of Fort Collins. There is a Goal Academy in Pueblo. There is a Goal Academy in Walsenburg. Brad, didn't you drive by a gold drop-in center? Was it Durango, or where did you see one?
Yeah, Brad Miller. Yeah, they're ubiquitous if you drive through the Southwest, for sure.
And so when you're driving around the state of Colorado, you're going to see Goal Academy, and it's a hybrid school. There's drop-in centers where kids can get a little additional help. And so 5% of those students live in El Paso County. 95% of them live in the rest of Colorado. When you look at our actual graduation rates, they can hover anywhere between 92 to 100% graduation rates, depending on the school. When you factor in Goal Academy, the statewide program, it can drop us down to where you'll see in the Gazette-Telegraph or other resources, even though we've explained it to them. 56 to 57% graduation rates for District 49. You can see the disparity, but as we have mentioned at this dais multiple times, we are proud of Goal Academy. We think it serves a very important mission, and we take a hit for it on the district performance framework. We take a hit from it on reporting that doesn't explain what we do, because to my knowledge, we are the only district that charters a statewide program. I don't know if there's any others, or is there?
We're certainly the only one that charters a statewide program of this size. There are some other multi-district online programs which can be statewide. When you're finished, I've got a couple of comments about this that I'm actually positive about the Gazette this year.
And so when you look at the depth and the breadth of what we offer, from homeschool enrichment support, charter school offerings of a variety, everything from dyslexia to alternative high schools to high performance charter schools that have done a really great job, and they have a different focus. That's why we came up with the first resolution we wrote as a board. So I would like to also hear, well, I don't know, should we go to Superintendent Hiltz and then go to you guys, or should we go, okay, they are deferring to you first, Peter.
Thank you. I said I was positive about the Gazette this year. I really appreciated that the Gazette this year added a caveat at the end of their article that this first distribution of reports are preliminary. They're labeled that way, and that the request to reconsider process might change those ratings. We are pretty confident that we have met the standard to request that CDE recalculate our district performance framework. Our calculations, which have been quite accurate in projecting all of our schools' frameworks, our calculations tell us that when the AEC data is removed appropriately, equitably, all three of our levels, and therefore our district as a whole, will be well above the threshold for being accredited as a performance district. And so we've said this for years, but for a variety of reasons, this is the first year since pre-COVID that we've been able to make that request and have a very good chance that it's going to be granted. CDE, like a lot of organizations, is badly understaffed in key positions, and this is one of those offices. They've been working really hard since early August on school performance frameworks, so it may take them yet a week or so, maybe even a couple of weeks before they release that, and you can be sure that as soon as they do, we will be shouting about that. But I'll give you just a small preview. In the iConnect zone, when goal is part of it, because you know how huge they are, when goal is part of the calculation, their score is approaching, their score is well down into the improvement level. When those alternative education data are extracted, then all of a sudden their entire high school level jumps to distinction. It jumps to 76.5 from a score down in the 40s. And so that just tells you what the statistical impact is of a school that size. And like you, Ms. Thompson, I'm proud that we authorize goal. We're in the middle of commissioning an important study about the impact of goal for the whole state of Colorado. But it is very gratifying to see what we have been saying, which is that District 49 has been and continues to be on the rise, and we are heading toward distinction with diversity in District 49.
Okay, Catherine, do you have any thoughts about this resolution?
I think it's an interesting resolution. I wasn't here when they made this resolution, but it looks amazing. So may I ask, because I don't fully know if I understand what Goal Academy is, if I can receive information about what that is?
I think this is just an area of significant public interest, so I'll respond briefly and then we can go further. In Colorado, if a school intentionally serves students that are overcoming life obstacles, and those are conditions that legally are called risk factors or high risk factors. So some of those are federal factors, some of them are state factors, but in Colorado, they're bundled together. And if a school serves a very high percentage, 90 or 95% of their students have one or more of those risk factors, then that school is called an alternative education campus. And those students are held to their school's performance, not the students. The students perform on exactly the same tests at the same time, but their school's performance is judged on something called the Alternative Education Campus Framework, or AEC framework. And that standard acknowledges the reality that students who are overcoming all kinds of life obstacles, those could be illnesses, those could be incarceration, they could be issues within the family system, substance use, criminal activity, but they're also very often individuals that have dealt with a major life illness, or perhaps they've become parents. So there's a range of things that create life obstacles, and why we're so proud of Goal is because they are the second or third or final chance for many of these students. There are thousands and thousands of high school graduates living and working and contributing around the state of Colorado that would not have graduated if Goal High School did not exist. And Goal High School would not exist if District 49 had not taken up their authorization. They came to a point where they needed an authorizer, and we were the only district that said, welcome. We opened the door, we welcomed them in. I'm so glad we did. And they get bigger every single year, which makes their impact even bigger on our data every single year, which is why I'm super proud that even though they've grown by almost 1,000 students, even with Goal's data, we've still continued to improve our district performance as they've gotten larger. So that's a very, very oversimplified version of an incredibly important school. Maybe the most impactful school of its kind in the nation because of its size and scope and how many students it cares for.
Juliet, do you have anything?
I'd like to start off with saying I'm very proud to be a part of a district that is involved with Goal. I think I just have some questions about the graduation rates. Are the low rates that we're seeing with Goal just what is to be expected of an alternative education school? And is that are those low rates something that the district ourselves that we need to address or look into fixing, or is that Goal's responsibility and we take responsibility?
A lot of the kids who transfer into Goal, so they will come to, when the state calculates your graduation rate, they look at the first year the student started anywhere in the state in high school. So the kid could have started at a traditional high school in 9th grade, and they failed 9th grade, and they failed 10th grade, and they dropped out. Now they start at Goal, and Goal might get them done in 3 years, but the state's gonna count that as 5 years because they calculate it from the first day they ever stepped into a high school. So given that many of the students who transfer into Goal transfer in with a credit deficiency and are behind in school, the likelihood of them graduating in the 4-year time frame, if it starts from the day they started any high school anywhere in the state, is really an unrealistic expectation, right? It really would be far more fair to Goal to look and say, hey, why don't we calculate it from the day they started in your school? Because that's when you became responsible for them. But that's not how the system works, and because of that, their students might graduate in what the state would consider 5 or 6 years, even though many of them get through Goal's program in 3, because they come in with a few credits and then Goal does all kinds of amazing things in terms of helping them regain credit and get workforce readiness and all of those types of things. But then when the state looks at our district, they average that school, which has more students in it than all of our high schools combined, with our traditional high schools, which then is going to make our rate look bad, even though it really isn't. And in both cases, it's amazing. And when Goal came to us, they were struggling not only with an authorizer, but they were struggling as a school. If I remember, they weren't nearly as big when we brought them on, but they also were in danger of being taken over by the state because of their rating, their improvement status. And we made a commitment to help them figure out how to do it better and worked with them. And now we have a performance AEC that serves more kids across our whole state than all of our high schools together and is generationally different. I've attended graduations at that school where, because the school's willing to also help other family members get GEDs while their children are attending there, a grandmother has walked across the stage with her daughter, who is now a mother, carrying her baby, and the baby's father is receiving his diploma behind that person. That's generational change that wouldn't happen without Goal. And so my hair stands up and I get very defensive of it because I know where it was from the very beginning and I see the impact it has now, and no one else is willing or able to do that for our children in our state, in part, and that's part of what this resolution is trying to address, is no district wants to get beat up in the paper like we do every year and have taxpayers think they're not doing a good job for their students, when in fact we are, because it's a complicated thing to explain. And once it's something that's complicated to explain, people's ears go off. They just look at the general number and it's an easy egg to throw, rather than looking at, good Lord, what we're doing is amazing. What we're doing is life-changing. What we're doing is what we should be about in education for every child in this state, and we should be celebrating every place that's willing to offer a program that helps every child. So it's my baby in some ways. Not really, but kind of at the same time, yes.
Director Schmidt.
Also, with these performance frameworks, the alternate education campuses are kind of judged on 4 factors as opposed to 3, which it actually put Patriot in the middle of the last CMAS last year, but it's still not enough. You know, we need to still see if we can't get that busted out.
Director Heil.
And just to emphasize how important this is, so I spoke earlier about some of the financing challenges that we have in this district, and we need to, for example, make sure the students have enough room at Sand Creek. We need to make sure that, you know, we're providing adequate busing throughout the district, and we can't do any of that without community support. So we go out and we reach out to the community and say, you know, can you help us with extra funding? And if they're looking at performance data and they're thinking that our schools are failing, then they are far less interested in supporting us. And so we could solve this problem immediately. We could just decharter Goal Academy and let the state chartering body take care of it. That would be the wrong thing to do for those students, particularly because one of the benefits they get by being chartered in D49 is they get to keep more of their operating revenue, and so that goes in to help the students there. And so, yeah, we can game the system and just cut them loose, but it's just so wrong morally. And so what we need to be able to do is correct the way that these things are being reported so that the community is getting an accurate picture of exactly what it is we're accomplishing here in D49.
Director DeVola? No?
I echo everyone's statements. Goal Academy is so needed, and when I first came on the board, I did not understand the impact, so I can actually attest firsthand how confused I was by the performance and the district frameworks. And I was one of the people that thought that our district was failing because I did not understand goal at all. So when that was explained to me, then I was like, oh, I get it. And so even now to this day, I'm like, I understand. I really do understand why the community so many times will fling things in our face, because I was in that position. So I understand what it's like to have misinformation, and I think it's really important that we are able to explain this. And it's important not only for us, but for other districts who want to do the right thing and want to start other alternative schools like Goal, so that they can have more impact without it impacting their district's performance frameworks.
I'm just going to add one note in support of this. And by the way, just so you know, there's other students who choose to go to Goal not because of life difficulties. They actually choose the Goal model, which is hybrid. It's online, but they have drop-in centers. But I know parents of 2 Goal students, and they just chose it. They just worked better for their kids. The other thing that, they've talked about some of the life challenges, and they actually do provide baby caps and gowns. And it's true that parents of a student who's attending Goal can get their GED at the same time. One of our speakers last year came from a refugee camp from the country of Chad. And he was so excited to be accepted into Goal. And another way to drive home the importance, whenever I am impressed with your accomplishments and everything you're involved in, that was not me. When I was in high school, I was already a practicing alcoholic, okay, by the time I was in high school. And by the grace of God and a 12-step program, I've been sober now since 1980. Some of you knew that, some of you don't. I don't care. That's just who I am. And so when I look at kids who have had those life struggles, whether it's addiction, whether it's pregnancy, whether it's criminal, whatever it could be, that's what Goal is there for. And Superintendent Hiltz is correct. Kids who graduate high school, and a lot of them are now doing concurrent college enrollment, they have a better economic future ahead of them. And so I hope you understand some of my personal passion for Goal Academy, because I wasn't like you guys. I had a lot of good ideas. I was just applying them in the wrong manner. So is there any other discussion, or can we do we need to vote on moving this resolution forward? I think we do. Okay, can I get a vote now on that resolution?
Yeah, isn't this under action items? We're adopting it.
Davala.
Aye.
Heil.
Aye.
Livia Wright.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Thompson.
You betcha. And that one passes. Okay. Let's see where we are. Oh, yeah, we're on to discussion item. Can you help me with my sheets here? I lost my place here. 9.1, which is the financial report.
Hello, I am Spencer McCabe, the budget manager. So this is the last quarterly for the 23-24 school year. The nice thing about this is that not much has really changed from the other 3. It's kind of nice when the information is pretty consistent. So the summary is that our spending ended at $148 million. We originally projected $147. So that's $1 million higher, but our revenue was also $2 million higher. So our revenue was about $150 million. So our revenue was $3 million higher, so we're $2 million under budget. There was no unexpected variances. This is through our core, just the difference between revenue and expenses. We brought more in. That's all just from collecting property taxes. This may look different going forward this year because the state changed how we get funded. When they allocate money, we get more now for the first 9 months instead of it equal throughout all 12. to kind of balance out that that deficit in the beginning until we collect property taxes. So this will look a little different going forward. This is just a summary of some of the larger funds. Nothing really changed. Same information, Fund 10 just collecting taxes, 22 is the timing of grants, and then Fund 49, we already received all the money, we're spending it now. You'll see that again this year, and then ideally, well, no, not ideally, at the end of this year, that'll be done. Here's how the revenue and expenses compare from the third quarter to the fourth quarter. This is just our spending process, our calendar. I put June just because that's the end of the quarter, creating the budget for the new year and stuff and closing out. We're currently, from now until really through November, we'll be closing out the previous year. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
No questions.
Okay.
And if you change your mind after hearing the discussion, don't hesitate, wave, flag. If I don't see you, jump up and down. That'll be very entertaining. Director Schmidt?
At our last meeting, we had some academic information that was given to us, and it was in a really understandable way for, really more for the public. I think we pretty much were grasping what was in there. I'm just wondering if at some point we can do a presentation. I mean, that was a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the average Joe can understand everything that was in this. So I'm kind of thinking maybe in the future we can work on, I mean, I can't task anybody, but, you know.
Just kind of like a basic like financial teaching, like what stuff means type of thing.
So the people from the public can understand certain things, maybe a little piece here, a little piece there.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily a major overhaul, but I don't know that the public's really understanding what all that just was.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I could definitely work on like 10, 15-minute presentation just going over the basics of what stuff means. And so when I'm like referencing revenues and expenses, you know what I mean by that, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys could provide a little bit of the history when it comes to District 49 financial transparency and some of what we helped to change in the state.
Brad Miller speaking, and I'll just jump in because Peter was largely responsible for this, but at the time when we began to devise our zone orientation structure and leading towards the chiefs, one of the things that we did through our Office of Finance was we were the first district in the state to comprehensively put our books online. We became the poster child for transparency in the state, which led to the adoption, and I bet you Peter will remember the year, but I'm going to say 2010 or 2011, of the State Financial Transparency Act, which was emulating what we were already doing in practice, and we were the only district doing this. And since then, if you kind of track with the legislature, we've been, for our size, very outsized influencers in the legislature in terms of all of the components of the way student funding is considered and the priorities and the ways that it's managed. And that's been expressed in large part by the person that stands at this podium and does things for us. And it's always, by nature, super complicated. It is. But we do and have continued to have all of that stuff online in a very comprehensive manner. So it is discernible even for a lawyer like me who does nothing to do with numbers.
And tonight you've heard a couple of references to Andy Franco. We also have to talk about Brett Ridgway, because it was his format of putting these books online that led to some of that legislation. So once again, we were leaders throughout the state of Colorado as far as opening the books and letting the public take a look. Now, sometimes, I'll be honest, I look at these, and I'm very grateful that I have overdraft protection. I just want to get that on the record here. But they can be complicated, but the one thing we lead in is transparency, and I'm really proud of that. Director Olivia Wright?
I was going to just add a little bit to that, that in fact, our district at various times has been recognized not only statewide but nationally in both conservative and liberal organizations for the financial transparency. I think the issue with average Joes, including me, who only handles my own family budget, $148 million budget of a complex organization that involves all kinds of federal and state law and regulation, is something that we can only boil down to a certain extent. But we have been recognized at the state level and at the national level, largely due to the work that Brett Ridgway and his team initially put in. Actually have been held up as model organization in education in some of those places because of being a leader in that work. But that also means then that when every single book and every single piece is on there, that's when people start looking and saying, oh, but what was this check and where did it go to? And they're looking at, again, an $148 million budget. The way in which we look at those transactions is very, very different than you look at in a home budget, but most of us picture money in terms of how we've personally experienced it. And most of us in our community are experiencing a $70,000 budget a year, not $150 million budget, or the rules that come with it. And so I think that it becomes sometimes the fact that we are so transparent also leads to some of that confusion that really just has to do with the size. If you opened any corporation's books to the level that we have opened our books, you would see very similar things. It just isn't comprehensible to those of us who don't deal with that large of a budget in that large of an organization on a regular basis. The other point I just wanted to make was we often get questioned about our unassigned fund balance. And so we have about 15 million listed in there. And our budget though, last year we spent 148, so around $150 million. So to put that in perspective, instead of thinking of it in millions of dollars, think of it as percent. That's only 10% of our year's budget. So that's less than 1 month of our expenses that we have kept in savings for if something happens. If you think about that in terms of your own family budget, how many months do you try to keep in savings in case something happens, in case the state screws up and doesn't send us our money, in case you get caught in the federal budget fight, which as a military government spouse we've had, and someone who gets VA funds for a disabled vet, well, when the Congress is fighting and they decide the VA funds are going to be screwed up for 2 months because they can't pass their budget, how do I make sure my bills get paid? I make sure by having a savings account. Well, the same people fighting about that also could withhold federal education funds. How do we make sure our teachers still get paid? All of our staff get paid, our buses still run? By making sure we have a small savings account. And that 10% is again less than 1 month's budget. Most of us would be, as individual homeowners or individual families, would be trying to have maybe at least a month's expenses in case something happened to our paycheck too. So when we talk about, well, you have 15 million, why aren't you spending that down too? This is why. The same reason you don't spend that last month down of savings that you have, because we want to make sure that we never get into a situation where we have to say we can't write our paychecks this month. We have to make sure we have that savings too. It just seems like a really big number because we have a lot of expenses.
Director Heil?
And I just want to make sure that this gets called out because this is very important to the topic. So Dr. Trautenberg forwarded us an email. I don't know who this organization is, but It says, congratulations to you, your staff, and your district on receiving ASBO International's Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for your fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. Your continued participation in the COE program is a testament to your district's commitment to transparency and high-quality financial reporting. So congratulations to everybody involved in that. Now, with that said, I actually agree with Deb that the information could be improved to make it more accessible, and so I have pledged to work with Deb to come up with a sort of a set of guidelines that that we would like to follow. We're certainly not asking for any tasking at this time, especially understanding where you guys are in the budget cycle. You just started an audit, so we want to be very mindful of resources. But we can continue the conversations between the two of us, come up with some suggestions, bring those forward to the board, and then you know, later down the road, turn that into tasking.
And do we need consent? I think we need consent for the two of you to work on that project. So if I could get board consent, and then I know Director DeVolo might want to make a comment. So can I just get a yes on the microphone that consent for those two to come up with a model?
I'd also like to hear Director DeVolo's comments.
So the consent is different from this part. So can I get a board consent on those two members?
Yes, I would be happy to work with Mike.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Director DeVolo?
I just wanted to bring up something that I've known from previous board meetings, that I believe way back in the day before I was on this board, the budget packet was, what, a couple hundred pages, 500 pages long? And right, and I think, yeah, the whole thing in paper and just huge stack. So the fact that we were able to get the budget packet down to, I think it was like 23 or 30, something, I can't remember, something a lot more manageable for us to look through was a huge...
It technically is still that long.
But that, I'm talking about the one that you guys give the board.
Yeah.
So we
yeah.
don't get the huge, big, fat one.
Yeah, there's like 300 pages of just student fees that fill up a lot of space.
Exactly.
And I left that off at the beginning.
But you guys do a great summary.
Yeah, yeah.
And you take that and you make it into a more manageable document that used to not be a thing. So I'm really glad that we were able to put that in place where we have a much more manageable, and I can understand it a lot better than I did the first time I was on this board. I was like, I don't know what any of that means. And we were able to get a lot more explanation. So I appreciate you guys and all your hard work.
Yes, you guys do a great job of authoring School Finance for Dummies. Superintendent Hiltz?
Ma'am, the association to which Director Howell was referring is the Association of School Business Officials. So they're the smart folks on school business matters. I would make an observation and a request. The observation is that much of what we have to provide to you and most of the format, so both the content and the format is called out in statute. We have to follow the state chart of accounts. There are clarity obligations, and so if you think about Goldilocks and that porridge that's too hot, too cold, and just right, we have to balance absolute transparency, which is anybody can look at any spreadsheet at any time and be absolutely incapable of understanding a lot of what they're seeing, on the one hand, or we can give you a comic book version which obscures a lot of relevant detail. So we have consistently tried to balance the hot and the cold, or the detailed and the superficial. And what ASBO is telling our team is that you're doing this to a level of excellence. So that's my observation. My request is this. Budget reports are financial data reports. And I think part of the reason that the board appreciated the academic data that Ms. Granas presented is because she was able to use the data to tell a story. And what I would ask, particularly from the two liaison from the board, is would you please tell us what questions you want the story to answer? Because if you can give us what do you need to know on a monthly basis or on an annual basis, we can organize the data and especially the visualization of that data in a way that tells that story. We do want to be sensitive to the annual budget cycle, and we do want to be sensitive to the workload cycle. And I know that you are sensitive to those things, but my request is, if you are going to ask us to change what is already an excellent form of communication, then it would be very helpful if you would ask in the form of questions that are either not currently being answered or that you would like answered with a level of increased simplicity or increased visual accessibility.
I think that following state statute, we'll be able to hammer it out.
So, just a point of clarity, they're just working on a proposal, correct? This would still come back to, because I don't know if you noticed, but there were 4 yeses, not 5, went for the consensus, which is 100% fine, right? It's still a consensus of the board to task. And that's my personal bias, having seen now, 14 years of what has progressed and knowing how difficult it is to boil down. So some of which were treasurer also. But either way, I just want to make sure that before it ever becomes a task for any staff member, it is still coming back as a discussion item for all of us. That's, okay, so point of clarity for all of us, including our finance folks. Remember, you're not tasked with anything till the 5 of us agree later, if we agree.
I appreciate that. I thought you didn't hit your button, so I really appreciate that clarity. And I want to tell you, the first time that I had a meeting with Brett Ridgway, and he had those 3 enormous screens, and then he projected all of the different fund balances and all of these different things on these 3 screens, and I thought to myself, what have I gotten myself into? Because it was a little bit overwhelming to look at all the different funds, and there's pass-throughs, there's grants that can only be used for specific things. There's all kinds of stipulations with each of the different funds. So sometimes we might think, oh gosh, we could just take from here and move it there. Can't be done. And so it can be daunting. And I appreciate the financial transparency. But sometime you guys ought to see what that looks like, because you'll just go, wowza. So, are there any other comments of Director DeVoe?
I appreciate Director Heil's knowledge of this, and I'm actually glad that we have a treasurer who knows a little bit and has background in some finance, because it was interesting not having any of us really know what we were talking about with the finances with the 5 of us. So this is pretty awesome. So I appreciate your background.
And likewise, I have said before, and I'll say it again, Director LaVere Wright has forgotten more information about this district than I could ever hope to learn. And I appreciate the background and the history. Are there any other comments?
Just joining in the love fest here. So just to give, just on a high level, this is just as a for instance, because what Deb is pointing out is that the audience for this document is the general public. And so you're coming before us and saying, hey, I can come here and teach you how to read these documents. And we've been getting a lot of really great training, and as a result, I can look at this information right here in front of me, and I can understand what I'm looking at. But then when the public is looking at it, that's a different audience. And so, like, as I'm looking at this page 4 here with the chart, I'm thinking, yeah, I see what MLO 3A was doing, and I see what COP repayment was doing, and I understand those terms, but I don't expect that our general public does. So maybe, just as a for instance, just in this particular case, we might add a page that defines those and just gives just really quick information so that the general public can understand a little bit more of what we're talking about. So I really don't want to change the formula of what we're doing, and I made the argument when Deb and I were talking that Peter made about, it's a trade-off between transparency and understandability. And we have always valued transparency. We heard earlier tonight that we have been a leader on transparency, and so I do not want to give that up. But maybe we can supplement. So I think that's kind of where my thinking is going into this.
And on one other little point, and I'll get right to that before I forget a thought. Busing. We had a question or a comment tonight about busing. There's different elements of busing. There is the budgeted amount that goes to a portion of busing. A lot of people think that we raised the bus fees to help pay off the transportation center, and that was not the case. We've had fuel increases and we've had other increases, which is why the bus ridership fee went up, but they're separate funds. And that transportation center was planned for and allocated and approved, but it has nothing to do with what we charge on bus fees. So did you have a question, Catherine?
Yes, I was going off of Hale's point. I don't fully understand what YTD means. If I can understand what the YTD variance analysis is.
Year to date.
You did?
Year to date.
Oh, today? Year to date.
Year to date.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Thank you.
It's a good question.
But Catherine, it's complicated. When did the year start? Because we operate on a fiscal year that starts July 1. And so that wouldn't necessarily be obvious to folks. I think of the year as starting January 1. So these are the kinds of things, as I invited the board to ask questions, one of the questions might be, what do all these acronyms and initialisms mean? And would it be helpful to have a legend? We have a lot of wall space. I wonder if the comms team could put up a glossary.
I do want to say one thing, which is, prior to Spencer working with me on the budget and us looking, the district really didn't do quarterly financials in, like any kind of disciplined way. And part, I think, of of either the concern or the consternation is really when we're looking at our quarterly financials, we are not looking at all of the other funds on that complicated slide. We are really looking at this, which is to figure out each quarter, at the end of the quarter, what have we taken in our revenues, what have we spent in the general fund, which is our main operating fund and the bulk of our monies, to show you. It's kind of like it's like an early warning signal. It's the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So if I were the community or I were on the board and I saw that historically we've been having kind of a fund balance that fluctuates between 20 to 15 million, and all of a sudden you come in and you see it quarterly and that number is 8 million, that's a warning signal. But, part of this quarterly presentation is just to show you and our community that we are on track with our forecast and our expenditures. And, it's cyclical, right? Early on, we spend more, then we kind of go on a lull. And then at the end of the year, we spend a little bit more going into the end of the year. So when schools and teachers come in, they've got, their supplies and facilities, right? So this slide, which is your fund summary slide, the reason we show that is what you approved on the budget, right? All of these distinct funds, but our main focus when we do the quarterlies is for the general fund, because these other funds are what we call categorical, meaning when monies are in there, we cannot spend them in any other way except in the category for that line item. So I just want to make that clear. If I could make this any more simple, I would. I mean, trust me. But this is about as simple as we can make it, and I think, as the superintendent said, still comply with what we're obligated to do to get information out, in a way that financially is responsible and transparent. So We try every time we do this presentations, we all get in a room. It's like running film if you're like coaching a team. We practice the presentation. Can we do something different? What you'll see will show up in the student count because we changed it literally at like 2 o'clock. We came in and we said, forget these numbers that are now stale. Let's go with the new numbers and let's see how we can present it. So any feedback is great feedback for us.
Director Olivia Wright?
Well, and just as a comment, when people look at those fund, the 5 you have listed, each of those is listed separately because it has very specific legal requirements. So when we say it was we allocated, we didn't actually allocate to the MLO fund. That money is the MLO money that comes in from the state, and that account is encumbered by the language of the ballot initiative that voters voted on, so that is tracked completely separately and can only be spent on what that is. The grants fund, that's all the grants that come in that are encumbered explicitly to be spent the way the grants say they have to be spent. So we didn't say, well, let's put $20 million into the grants fund, and let's put, $1 million into the MLO fund. Those monies came in with very specific encumbrances and therefore are kept in separate accounts so that those encumbrances can be met and we can meet the legal obligations to have them. I think the only one we might allocate to is capital reserve, right? Yeah. That's a separate allocation from the board. The rest of them, general fund is all the money that comes from state fed for our student operating budget that we can then spend on all kinds of things. That's the one we actually have lots of control over, but we don't really because we run out of money before we can meet the things we would like to spend it on. It's not enough to do everything we would like to do for kids, but just as a piece. It's not us choosing first and then saying, well, now we can't spend it anywhere. It's legally required to be spent specific ways, which is why each of them are tracked differently.
Okay. Any other comments real quick?
Just one. Our treasurer's getting training, which is appropriate, but is it appropriate to also train the other board members as well?
We've talked about the quarterly trainings that we've started to set up. And so that could definitely be a discussion that we could do. We could kind of take a poll and see who would be interested in doing that and getting it set up.
It sounds like we have two very knowledgeable individuals, and Jamie Lynn's come quite a long ways, but I don't know about you and I don't know about me.
Yeah, and just to add, I haven't gotten any special training on this. Mostly it's just been, attending these meetings and hearing your reports and asking questions.
Can other board members join those meetings?
Well, I'm talking about these meetings. Oh, just these. Yeah, but I do know that they have made themselves available for training one-on-one in the past.
I will defer to Brad, but I think that we can cycle in kind of like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2. We don't run afoul of kind of open, meeting laws, but we would be happy to do that. If you want to cycle through monthly and we can cover a different topic, or, now that we're a little bit more settled in our offices and I've got a good assistant, we can put it up on the big screen and kind of just go over it. That may be very useful exercise. So I've personally done that in the past with boards, right? But you've got to have a willingness to want to cycle through, right? So.
And just so you know, prior to you being here, we used to have meetings one-on-one with Brett. And they were scheduled just like we have our opportunities to do one-on-one with Peter. So back when we had the 3-chief model, we were given the opportunity to have those, and I think it's a good idea. The reference to 2x2 was really good. It's just so we don't run afoul of open meeting laws. And we could also, if there's the desire there, we could schedule one of our quarterly board trainings on this, as long as we publish it, we don't discuss board business. We did one, the first one we did was on resolution training, where we had a representative from CASB come down and we created that resolution for goal together as a board. And so it gives us an opportunity to kind of learn more together. So I think that's a good idea.
I think we would get more out of it on that, in that manner. You know, sometimes at these board meetings, everything goes so fast, and I know just enough to get myself in trouble. But if we
And that
all
might be a good
understood it a little better,
opportunity.
we could make better decisions for our kids.
And we could also, just as an idea, it would be fun to open some of those up to any student board members who were interested in it. Not a mandatory thing, but where we could say, hey, we're going to do this training. If any of you would like to come, we would open up that
Ms.
opportunity.
Thompson? Just a small point. We've transitioned our model from chiefs to a superintendent, so I want to be respectful of that as you think about these sorts of things that used to be natural. Just consider the pathway that you utilize to set up meetings with subordinates and so forth.
Thank you for that reminder. That was really good. So we'd have to run everything through Peter. And also, if we set up a training, then it would be a little more independent. So that's a good point. Thank you.
I do
Okay.
believe CASB also offers training, so if you watch when they do I know the conference was overwhelming last year, but there are usually some financial sessions offered during the retreats and also during some of the quarterly things. If you kind of just keep track of all the things CASB offers, they'll offer some general training in school finance.
True, it's not specific to our district though, and I've been in a couple of those trainings and they were eye-opening on certain things, but I think we need to have some more district training.
Okay. All right, there's not a second public comment. We're on to miscellaneous. Okay, if not, we're going to adjourn. And Mr. Weber, if you could hang around for just a minute, I'd appreciate it. And thank you very much. We are adjourned at 8:29.